Okay, so the session is very specifically called Learn to Learn. Okay, and that simply acknowledges the fact that everybody in the room is a highly qualified professional, and I am absolutely no one to teach anyone anything. I do have large audiences where they are youngsters. I'm entitled to say I'm going to teach, not this group, not this forum. But Learn to Learn is something that occurred to me very deliberately, because in our group, there were some people who were like, I want to learn more about this. How do I go about it? So let me start to share my screen. And my intent over here is not to weigh you down with 2 hours of monologue or anything like that. It's going to be maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. That's from me, yeah, max. From you, as long as you want it, you can keep asking questions. It's pretty much an ask me anything session, which means ask me anything. And I will share with you vignettes of what we have. We've done a lot of work. We are essentially a training company, so our job is to keep putting all knowledge in a context that people can relate to. So let me share my screen and set the ball rolling, okay? And I'm going to share my desktop so that you can see whatever it is that I have for you. Like I said, it's an Ask Me Anything session, so I'm going to share everything with you. Humble request, I work for the firm known as Stratedyne. I'm the head of research. Humble request to fellow members, lots of information put out by us at your disposal. Please don't ask me for presentations. I have an employer, okay? Right, so Learn to Learn ESG, as this image shows, it's about learning to fish, which is rather than telling you what it is right now, providing you the ability to find your way through this thicket, this forest, this jungle, on an ongoing basis on your own. And that's extremely important today. If you said accounting concepts, if you said auditing standards, it's a fairly stable body of knowledge. And if it's a fairly stable body of knowledge, then I can share with you the current status and maybe run a test and a quiz and a few activities, and we are good. But if it is ESG, which is constantly shifting, changing colors, looking puzzling, flood of regulation and statements from regulators, statements from companies saying that we are green, yeah, then you need some roadmap. You need a reference by which you can stay on course. Okay, now that's what this session is about. And I'm going to share with you a genuinely free to use, free to air product. I'm going to walk you through its features for the most part. And then I think that's a good way for you to stay in touch. Okay. So the first thing is this. This is, Konosuke Matsushita of National Panasonic. In 1930s, he was going to some temple, Tenrikyo temple near Osaka. And when the bus stopped, there was a whole bunch of people at a waterfall drinking water. And he writes in his book, The Art of Management, I looked at that waterfall. I saw people drink and let the remaining water flow. And I thought, this is something that we should adopt as a society. We know Japan to be the first post-war industrial powerhouse. He said National Panasonic should make all products as inexhaustible and as cheap as tap water. And when this is realized, poverty will vanish from the earth. So sharing makes things grow is more true of knowledge than anything else, so that we have now this concept, what we call the Matsushita principle, as a mark of respect to Japan rather than this gentleman alone. Everything that we have at a particular level is free for everyone to use. Now, why do we need to learn to learn? So I just, if you go into ESG, you just Google, and Google is the greatest master out there. Yeah. If you go into Google and you say ESG, this is just a random screen grab from like half an hour ago. No let up in pace of ESG rule making in 2023. That's from Reuters. That's the first hit. The second hit is about some Republican who's commenting on ESG. McKinsey says 5 ways that ESG creates value. PwC says turn ESG theory into action. But if you actually went online and looked for any content that told you define ESG, you're going to have a tough time. Okay, I'm a researcher. I'll tell you that's true. What is ESG? If you Google this sentence, what is ESG? You will get a number of people telling you how they do it, how it works, why they are the right consultant to go to. But what is ESG? And then what I define as the 3-click problem. You go on the internet, your intention is to research and study something, but in 3 clicks, you're either looking at a picture of Aishwarya Rai's child or Harry and Meghan and what they've said. It's the nature of the internet. It will take you in a direction away from your intent in 3 clicks. And you can, after the session, you can try this out. How many clicks does it take you to spot something which interests you more than what you set out to do? Okay, and you really have to be one yogi type person to keep the focus going. So here's what we did. Okay, can you see? You can't. Let me share the screen for you. Now I'm going to walk you through 12 dimensions of ESG. And as I walk you through those dimensions, I will suggest, recommend, based on my experience as a researcher, how to stay focused on what you're looking for. Okay. So the one thing that Google has taught us, the answer is not important. The answer is available. If you Googled, and all of us have, it'll tell you in how many seconds it threw up the result. 0.19 seconds for 1.2 million hits on the question you asked. So the answer is a piece of cake. What Google teaches you, this screen, let me show you that screen. Yeah, a screen which all of us are very, very familiar with. This screen. Share. And there you go. This screen. Yeah. You see this Google screen with this box over here, ESG. Look at all the stuff. And there you have Philadelphia Eagles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in the top 10. There's a hit called Philadelphia Eagles, right? This white box, there's nothing on the screen excepting the space to enter your question. And the biggest lesson we learn from Google is the answer is not important, the question. Do you know what question to ask? If you know the question, the answer is available. And look here, this is how you get distracted. The first one is questions on ESG. This is Google tracking me. The second one, questions to ask about ESG investing, Google tracking me. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, questions to ask a guy, questions to ask a girl, question to ask your boyfriend, question to get to know someone. That's the 3-click problem. One of these is going to get you. So head over to this. This is called, it's a product innovation. It's free for you to use. You might see some clickables on the right, you can ignore them. Okay. Nobody will ask you any questions. You will not get any mail from some unknown guy from our firm asking you any questions. Okay. This is called the ESG walk. What does a walk do? It's a casual, relaxed way to browse all the chapters of a subject. Now, there are 12 questions here, which are akin to 12 chapters of ESG. And you use this, you open it in one window. The first question is, what is ESG? The second question is, how much money and who is driving ESG investing? The third question is, how does ESG investing compare to traditional investing? The fourth, how many ESG investing styles are there? The fifth, which are all the agencies involved in ESG? The sixth, how to relate a business to its ESG score. That's, in my opinion, the most important area and the area where chartered accountants can contribute significantly. The seventh is ratings. What role do they play in an investment selection? And this is very telling as of 2022. The eighth is, what are the frameworks that guide and inform ESG ratings? The ninth is a very, very specific term. It's called controversy. And it is not the standard English language meaning of the word controversy. In the ESG space, controversy means something exceedingly specific. The 10th is a deep dive into E, S, and G. The 11th is indexes. Just as we have Nifty, Sensex, we have more than 2,500 ESG indexes. What are those indexes? Who floats them? How do they get used by investors? And the 12th is regulation. Is ESG investing safe? From an investor perspective, what is regulation? Okay. And as always, regulation gives a fantastic insight into how ESG comes together. I'm going to share one slide later on with you on that regulatory map and how it drives. When I say drives, everything is data. One of our members asked us day before yesterday, hey, I'm doing stuff on Mr. Maniyar. I hope he's here. He asked the question, how we do wastewater treatment plants. What are the technical parameters we should track? Regulation shows you that if you claim to be improving the environment, it has to be measurable, reportable as a set of data points. And the flow from data point to reporting. And then beyond that, something which will happen in the next 24 months is international financial reporting standards on sustainability. That IFRS brings together financial reporting and sustainability reporting. Today, all sustainability reporting it hangs in the air, so to speak. You, under Sarbanes-Oxley or similar principles, you can go to jail for misrepresenting facts in your financial statements, but you can say whatever you like about your sustainability score. It's called greenwashing. Wearing green clothes and pretending to be green when you actually are not. It's called greenwashing. So IFRS sustainability and then the final implementation of that is going to make sure that greenwashing gets called out, step one, and possibly punishable, step two. And this is the space where we belong. Now, the large thing which is not there is green bonds, okay? Because this is just ESG frameworks. Green bonds, I'll present a similar walk, the green bond walk for you. Now, why is this walk important, okay? And how are you going to use it? So you click, what is ESG investing? It opens this screen. Now, whatever you saw in the storyboard, that entire menu, 12 points are listed over here. You can click on any of these to see what that topic is about. Okay. Now, when you go into the topic, the first thing, this is a screen that we will keep adding things over here. The most important ones that we have put over here are the infographics. You can ignore the right-hand column. Obviously, that's a lot of, if you want to do further things, but just look at the way the space is divided. It is like 80 to 90% for you and some 10% of all these clickables. If you ignore, and the clickables are kept in one corner so that they don't get in your way. So let's click this infographic. What is ESG investing? Look there, right there, 2 sentences. Investing in stocks and bonds that have good scores on environmental, social, and governance factors is called ESG investing. And then what are ESG funds? They make investments only in such stocks or bonds. So here's a environment, a company called Nextera. These are global examples. A company called Nextera. Nextera is clean energy company. It's considered world number 1 or 2 in ESG scores. When you go into MSCI, Sustainalytics, or S&P Global's ESG rating, you'll find Nextera always there on the top. On social, Patagonia is a favorite example from my side. It's a company that was like the gentleman who said he's been practicing this for 6-8 years and he's very tickled pink to find that, the whole world is jumping onto this. Patagonia is the company which a few years ago said, okay, please join in everyone. Sheesh. Okay, right. So in the interest of just getting on with it, there you go. Okay. Sorry about all this hold up. Okay. So we were here. Yeah. Okay. I was saying Patagonia is my favorite company because in the year, some few years ago, they on the Thanksgiving shopping weekend in the US. It's a North American fashion, not fashion, sportswear and mountaineering wear kind of a company. In that time, they had advertised saying, if what you bought from Patagonia last year is still good, don't buy anything this year in the shopping season. And the youngsters, they went crazy over this. And they're like, this is the kind of company whose products we want to buy. They are so environmentally conscious. And they said, we use, ethically sourced fibers, our production processes, our vendors, and so on and so forth. And they got so many new clients. And the brand became the rock star for the ESG world. Okay. And of course, from India, we have a great example of corporate governance, which is Infosys. Now, when we go into motivations and drivers, now, by the way, every single infographic that you see here, you can go into this, like it, and you can download and keep. Okay, when you download and keep, you will get the core infographic without all the stuff on the side. So for all of us who like collectibles, all these infographics are collectibles. So how do I advocate the use of this? When you go into any of these screens, you can see which are the keywords on which you want to do the search. Let's say you're new. You say ESG investing. ESG investing is a no-brainer. You can Google ESG investing. It will throw up some things. You can click ESG funds. It'll throw up some things for you to study. You can look at, for example, Nextera ESG score. It will throw up some things about. So you can research this topic on its own. Let me quickly go into motivations and drivers. And this is a very important one. Okay. So there are 3 core reasons why ESG works. The first is to avoid. You want to avoid any. Why do I say the first is avoid? Because the empirical data telling you what are the problems if you are not a green company are crystal clear. If you are a company which gets into trouble over any environmental factor, your stock will just tank, because this is now a highly ESG sensitive world. Okay, so I'll later share with you how this, what is this incident. It's right here. You can see this is why this concept of walk works. You can see here the motivation and drivers are 3. A for avoid negative events. B for the second A is to achieve a good portfolio performance. And the third A, possibly one of the out of the 3, avoid and align are really super important. Align says there's a lot of money that is looking for green investment opportunities. You want that money, you have to align with those people that are looking for green. So the avoid, which is the first one, is you can see this company's share price tank, which is Vale, a South American mining company. This is what happened to Vale. I hope you can see my screen. This is the Brumadinho Dam collapse, a very famous event where a dam which had mining waste. Is this a full screen for you? This dam, which you can see in the middle of the screen, had mining waste. And there the dam breaks. And the sludge flows into the valley, and more than 300 villages are destroyed. And then so many hundreds of people died and missing. Okay, this is the dam collapse. And this is called a tailings dam. All the companies that are in minerals and mining, when they extract materials, chemical processes to extract the minerals, and all the sludge, the waste, is stored near the mine in dams like this. Now, this company, Vale, which is a South American mining giant, has got more than 300 such dams in Brazil where this incident happened. And this is actually that other topic which I mentioned, what is called a controversy. Once such an event happens, even if your company is considered to have a green score or a very good company, that is the end of the story of your company. Its stock will go for a toss. Okay, that's the nature of ESG. Once something bad happens to your stock, once something bad happens to the company, your stock is mud. Okay, so this is the very big reason. Now imagine you have a portfolio which has Vale in its list of stocks. Let's say I've invested only in 10 stocks, and one of those 10 stocks has an incident like this. or British Petroleum when they had a Gulf of Mexico incident, or Lafarge Cement where they were found to be paying bribe to ISIS, or those of us who are old enough to remember the 1983, 81, 82 Bhopal gas tragedy, where more than 3,000 people died in one night and several thousand die every year. And some 4 generations later, even today, deformed children are born. That incident, if it had happened today, Union Carbide and its successors had no hope. So one very big reason to try and be ESG is to avoid a negative portfolio consequence. Now, to those of you who are looking at, is this a fad? This is US data. Why is US data important? Because the amount that is invested in mutual funds in US is in trillions of dollars. And in countries like India, we really need to accept that we are looking for foreign institutional investment into our country. Now look at this chart. The older generation, 53% to the right of the screen, 53 plus 17, totally about 70%. 70% of the people are over 54 years of age. They are the ones that have they are the ones that have the bulk of the they are the ones that have the bulk of the money in the US. Okay. They are the ones that have the bulk of the money in US. And the youngsters have only 5% of the money in the US. 5 to 25%. Only youngsters have only limited amount of money. Older generation has significant amount of money. This older generation is going to pass this money through estates, through succession. As they pass on, the inheritors are on the left of the screen. Now, when father or mother invested, they didn't have ESG in 60s, 70s, 80s. They invested in coal, they invested in airlines, they invested in whatever was the stock to pick. The new generation can afford to look at ESG because they inherit. If somebody inherits $50 million, you can become pious. You can say, I will be only sustainable. You can say, I will do charity. You can say, I will start a venture fund. I will do angel investing. If you inherit $100, $200 million, you can do all this. And trust me, when you look at wealth data from the US, there are more than 1 million people who have more than $100 million and they don't count real estate value in investments. It is investable cash. Okay, so it's a huge market. And the largest fund house from the US is California Public Employee Retirement System, and another one which is the California Teachers Retirement System. These are two very large, very large US funds. One commands more than $500 billion, the other commands more than $300 billion, and they have said they are driving ESG investing. So if you don't have an ESG score, if you don't have an ESG profile, if you don't have a chief sustainability officer, if you don't have all those green labels on your website and your annual report and your sustainability report, please don't expect them to pick your stock to invest in or your bond to lend your company money. This here, what you're seeing on the screen, is the heart of the story. There is money, and that money will flow only to those who have green credentials. Only to those who have green credentials? Well, not exactly. Ukraine has shown us people are still dying for coal because green has not completely happened. You know, there's this guy called Ruchir Sharma, Morgan Stanley's emerging markets managing director, a person from Jaipur. I think he's a chartered accountant. I think he's from SRCC in New Delhi. And the most capable guy, and he's Morgan Stanley's, managing director for investment strategies, particularly emerging markets. He had written an article about 8 months ago, a year ago, it came in Times of India, saying, do not let go of gray while you're trying to go green. It was slightly before the Ukraine incident. And that was very prescient. Ukraine shows us that if you have not replaced your energy sources sufficiently with green, then at the hint of a crisis, you'll have to rush back to green. That is very good advice given to a country like India, and it applies to the world also. So when I look into, and when you go to this walk, there are lots of videos. You can keep seeing the videos. You can keep reading stories. European startup capital Berlin has got a hell of a lot of green startups, right? Berlin has seen a spurt in clean tech. How ideas become mainstream. It's a lot of information shared here. My humble submission to you is take the keywords from each of these screens, do your own study. Don't let the internet dictate to where you will go. You dictate to the internet where you want to go. This screen shows you that in traditional investing, we used to do financial analysis. Financial analysis, security selection, portfolio construction. In ESG investing, do you know how to do ESG analysis? It's an ocean. In ESG analysis, you have to count somebody's carbon footprint. What is the independence of the directors on the board? What is the representation given to ladies on the board? What is their hiring policy? So many different questions, and we may not have the data. So then, right now, how we do ESG investing is we go to a ESG index published by a MSCI, a Sustainalytics, and we simply buy all the stocks in that list. Quite simple. Okay. In future, there will be plenty of fund managers who will study ESG investing on first principles, and then they will do their own. Today, how do we invest in investments? We look at company ratings, we look at the bond rating, but we also do our own analysis. Nobody relies on somebody else's rating. But in ESG, we don't know where to get the data. We don't have the data source. We don't know how to do the ESG rating. So what do? We simply track indexes that have constructed ESG indexes, ESG ratings, and we follow that. Okay. When you go into investment styles, you will find, you can see here I have represented ESG investing as a spectrum. On the left extreme is traditional investing, only financial considerations. On the right extreme is ESG investing, only ESG considerations, and nobody invests on only ESG considerations. There is something called socially responsible investing, that which is an older version, or charities, which is an older version of investing, is purely ESG. Most people do what's middle of this, which is full integration. Means what? I will consider all financial data. I will consider all ESG data, combine the two and take a composite view of where to invest. Okay. You can see all the keywords on the screen. You can use the keywords to do your further study. When we go to ESG ecosystems, you can see these are all the different people. Okay. Issuers, which are the companies that issue shares, the company that issue bonds and raise loans in order to fund their ESG projects. You have end investors, which are people like you, me. You have the buy side, which is the mutual funds. You have other asset managers. You have rating companies. These are the people that provide green ratings. You have index providers. They construct different types of ESG indexes. Like you have pharma sectoral index, automotive sectoral index, IT index, Nifty, broad market index. Similarly, you also have the MSCI water index. It lists all the companies which have sustainable water practices. You have Sustainalytics, a non-controversial weapons index. It lists all the global companies which don't manufacture controversial weapons, okay, which is cluster bombs, napalm bombs, mines, nuclear devices, weapons of mass destruction. So you want to invest in the defense industry, but not in controversial weapons. Why do you not want to invest in controversial weapons? A, you're good of heart. B, you don't want to get into any controversy which destroys the value of the stock. Tomorrow, if it is found out that this company sold to Iran or North Korea various types of controversial weapons, and the US Department of Treasury applied sanctions on that company, the stock price will become 1/10 overnight. So you don't want to get into those. Then come the ESG framework agencies. These are people like the Sustainable Accounting Standards Board, IFRSS, Value Reporting Foundation, the UN SDG, and so on and so forth. These are people who tell you what are the pointers in the ESG space, right? So you can get the list of the ESG frameworks from this walk. Then regulators and then standard setters is United Nations PRI, which is the Principles of Responsible Investing. So these are again all the keywords you need. Business analysis is a very important one to find out what are the emissions that your suppliers are generating, what are the emissions and ESG factors for yourself, what are the ESG factors for your customers. I have listed over here a few of the most popular business analysis techniques that you can use to find out, does any supplier of yours have a pollutant in his value chain? Does any customer of yours use your product in a destructive manner, right? So you can do these analysis to find out what is the ESG footprint of a particular company. Ratings, here are the principal rating agencies: MSCI, S&P Global, Refinitiv, Sustainalytics. The rating processes cover over 20,000 companies now. All these numbers have gotten revised to now 20,000. So when you go to each of these websites, MSCI ESG rating, S&P Global ESG rating, Refinitiv ESG data, Sustainalytics ESG rating, each of these companies gives their own perspective on how they do the ratings. So you can study regarding that in those sites. Frameworks, which are all the frameworks? Here are all the frameworks. CDSB, Global Reporting, now 2-3 of these guys, Global Reporting, SASB and IR have become the Value Reporting Foundation. But you still hear of Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. You still hear about the CDP, which previously was the Carbon Disclosure Project, the Climate Disclosure Standards Board. So now directly from this, which are all the people who are laying down the path to ESG. And you can go there and you can research the topic further. Controversy, as I showed you, that dam breaking. Controversy is when, let me just go back to the definition for a moment. Controversy is when some major event like dam burst, contamination from chemical leaks, explosion, devastation of habitats. Very famously, just a few months ago, Rio Tinto, Australia mining giant, they had an area where they are allowed to mine. They set off a detonation and a 46,000-year-old cave, which had cave paintings, got destroyed. And how much hammering Rio Tinto took for doing that mistake. Okay, that's an example of controversy. Here are the kind of things that can destroy the value of a stock through something negative happening to the company. Accidents, lawsuits, law enforcement, government action, new research finding. Cigarette smoking is in fact injurious to health, is no longer new research finding. Protests, people can just come and sit in front of your shop and the news can become national headlines and the media can make a big scene. Or some court can take suo motu notice of some event in your firm and initiate proceedings. Now, left bottom, there's a video which you can review at your leisure. Lafarge, the French cement company, had paid ISIS to allow Lafarge to run its cement plants in Syria. Now, this may be a small, obscure country with, from a materiality, as chartered accountants, we can appreciate this word materiality. From a materiality perspective, a very, very minuscule part of the global balance sheet. But in France, in front of the head office of Lafarge, you can imagine Greta Thunberg and some 500 people standing there and, making a scene, which causes a lot of negative impact for that company. Okay. You want to drill down into ESG. These are, you can just see here, these are. You see here, there are 4 principal themes. What are the 4 principal themes? Carbon emission, pollution, resource use, climate change. Under carbon emission, what are the sub-themes? Production process emissions, carbon footprint, product carbon footprint, electricity generation, pollution, under pollution, toxic emissions, packaging materials, electronic waste. And under that packaging material and electronic waste, let me tell you, there is an area called end producer responsibility. ESG is such a vast subject, we have just composed it into a pathway in this walk. Methodically, you can unfold each dimension without losing your way. So what is end producer responsibility? If you manufacture a mobile phone and every year you launch a new model, you are indirectly responsible for how old models are disposed of. Why? Because the batteries have lots of dangerous chemicals. And if you go and look at the perspective on a country like India from the US, you will find that they will comment that in India, nothing is wasted. This all Indians know. We take apart everything and we strip it for every valuable resource that is available in it. For example, the connectors of various computer parts are coated with silver and gold, a very microscopic value, but there's someone who is extracting it. Who is that someone in India? It is oftentimes children. And what kind of methods do they use to extract value? It is oftentimes polluting. They will use acids, they will use chemicals, their hands will get scarred, their eyes may burn, their health may deteriorate. The pollutants are along shipyard in Gujarat. The pollutants seep into the earth. All this gets captured in the US. Bangladesh, supplier of garments, major exporter, huge fire, and then so many 100 workers died, 2013, 14, 15. Today, Bangladesh has got its act together. How? The protest was in New York, in front of Gap on 5th Avenue, that you are buying from suppliers in Bangladesh, you are not enforcing safety standard in Bangladesh. And so all the US government companies enforced the standards on Bangladesh suppliers, saying, make sure that you have fire safety, fire extinguisher, fire escape, no children, enough number of women. That's how change is being driven. Okay. So here you will see each of these has got a sub. So when you go into social has got a lot of sub points. What are the sub points? In workforce, how do you manage your labor? This is where Elon Musk's Tesla gets a lousy score. It's an electric vehicle company, so it gets a fantastic score on environment, but it's got a pathetic score on S because of labor. You can see supply chain labor standards. This is the Bangladesh example. Human rights. Tesla's car battery uses cobalt, as does all electric battery use cobalt. Cobalt is sourced from, this is value chain analysis in action. Cobalt is sourced from Democratic Republic of Congo. That's what means supply chain labor standards. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, there's a civil war. Cobalt mines are commandeered and commanded by mafia and by warlords. They use slaves. The slaves are quite often children. So anybody that is sourcing cobalt is being asked questions on how ethically is your cobalt sourced. Anybody that works in trade finance knows a few years ago we had blood diamonds. You can see the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, fascinating movie available on Amazon Prime, Blood Diamond. It tells you the story of how child soldiers are used in Western Africa to mine diamonds sold in De Beers in London, so that the riches and the wealth in London come from slave labor. They cut the children's hands. They threaten the parents. They drug the children, give them AK-47 militia, happening in Congo right now. In 2000, early part of this century, Sierra Leone's and Angola's blood diamonds were shut down by UN actions. You want to see how that happens? Enjoy the evening, watch Blood Diamonds, Leonardo DiCaprio, and see how that came to be. Okay. All these small words you're seeing on the screen are your guide maps. When you open Google, type these words. It will tell you. The third ESG, the G, governance. Governance is the one which is at least somewhat well understood by financial investors. They know governance to mean good corporate governance, but here are the actual points that are looked at. Let me specify a few over here that might be new or not top of mind in governance. Independence. Independence of the board. Now, independence is familiar because now we have so many standards in India regarding what means an independent director. But then remuneration. Elon Musk, 56 billion remuneration, I think 2019 or 20, as CEO of Tesla, is a talking point now that tells you the kind of questions that get asked under G. Minority considerations. How do you count the votes of your minority shareholders? Example now, Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, owns actually barely 10% of the shares. But he's got Class A shares, which allow him to block any vote. Whatever Mark Zuckerberg votes will be more than 50% of the voting in the meeting. And that gives Facebook, Meta, a negative G score. Okay. Nowadays, look here in the last one, corporate behavior, tax transparency. If the company doesn't pay enough tax, that also gets it a poor score. Now, it may not be material, it may not be the largest part of the story, etc., but it gets you a negative score. And if your overall score is higher, lower, whatever. Now, once again, I'm repeating myself. Use the walk. Here are all the keywords. Let the keywords guide your search, not the search guide your study. Come to indexes. Traditional indexes are used to benchmark. Is my investment doing better than Nifty or worse than Nifty? ESG indexes are primarily used to make the investment. I don't know where to find the top 20 clean energy companies. I pick up Sustainalytics, Clean Energy Index. Look at that list of companies in that index, put the money in that, and I'm done. But later on, definitely, they're going to start checking, I invested in this ESG fund. How does it compare to the ESG index? Okay. This is the area where empirical evidence is poor. When we talked about motivations and drivers, this third item, you see the left column, third item, motivation driver. I said there's sufficient data to tell you portfolio damage. There is not sufficient data to tell you that if you floated a green bond, how much percentage points of interest did you save? If you invested in an ESG investment, it outperformed non-ESG investment. There is insufficient empirical data. In fact, I can tell you the opposite. There is empirical data to show that had you owned coal since the day Russia invaded Ukraine, you would have made more money. Had you owned dirty oil, you would have made more money because oil went to 120, 140. Had you owned the lowly Russian ruble, the damn currency soared since the Ukraine war. all counterintuitive. So the data on our ESG investments performers, the data is still out there. But in the same Ukraine context, let me show you the impact of ESG. Companies that spend billions of dollars to enter Russia shut their operations in Russia. Societe Generale sold its Russian subsidiary at a loss, made more than $8 billion loss in exiting. McDonald's shut. I don't know what are all the food and retailing brands that shut after investing billions to open shops in Russia. Because if they don't, there will be mobs in their front door in North America and Europe saying you're earning blood money from Russia. ESG. Regulation, this one is a bit brief here, but these are the dimensions of regulation that you have. The larger regulations, well-established regulations are in Europe. I'm going to provide further infographic into the walk. The walk is a dynamic living object. So I will update the regulatory European map into this so that you can click here and find that European regulatory map as well. Now, this is how we recommend you to study ESG. These are the 12 things that matter. These are the only 12 things. If it matters, it is captured into one of these 12 things. So when people ask in the group, this is why I got interested to share this with you. When people ask in the group, how do I learn this topic? You use these 12 points to guide you. And for those of you who are interested, just please go into the infographics. You can download and save these infographics. I am there in the group. You can ping me and ask, hey, do you have can you give me larger version of this infographic? And I will send you the larger version. Mr. Maniyar asked me for technical details on oil industry. They make ethanol as a fuel additive. And I have sent him, I don't know, some 70 pages of technical specs, which is relevant for the engineers who work in his firm, etc. Why did I give it to Mr. Maniyar just like that? Because of the Matsushita thing, There's some joy in sharing. The work is already done. It's just lying there. It's there for sharing. It's there for you. And I invite you to ask and use and access. Let me just share with you quickly something which is highly relevant to Indians. Let me just give me a minute here, please. Let me get the BRSR reporting in India. Okay. Very quickly. This is not a session on BRSR, so you will excuse me, but I would be failing you if I didn't share with you regarding BRSR. So India has this national guidelines for responsible conduct of business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. And here is the SEBI circular which says, what does it say? 21, 22 voluntary filing, 22, 23 mandatory filing for top 1,000 listed companies. The lady from our Dhanalakshmi Bank said that theirs is in the top 1,000 and they're going to have to file. The gentleman from Aditya Birla, their group will also have to file this. And these are the list of disclosures. What we've done here is we've made it drill down, one by one, which is the national guidelines for responsible business conduct are aligned to the business responsibility and sustainability reporting standards. So we've mapped this to that so that you can have a look what is the kind of thing. All reporting, all regulatory reporting belongs to chartered accountants. I would hesitate to, subject is vast. We all know the subject is vast. I'm going to put in the chat window for your general use and for your noting, what is that ESG walk? That is bit.ly/ESG walk. Yes, Mr. Viral, I will repeat about the indexes. You can see there bit.ly.ESG walk. Use it, write to me, ask for updates, demand things under the Matsushita principle, everything will be shared. Okay. I will share it in one format or the other. It depends what best I can achieve at a moment. Let me just repeat for Viral, to respond to Viral specifically regarding the index. Yeah. Where have I got it best? I have it best over here. Okay. Let me pull what is the best. Do I have some samples of indexes to share with you? Yes, I do. So on indexes, the first thing to remember is that there are two, where are indexes? There are two ways in which indexes are understood by industry. Okay. The first is, we know that there is broad market index like Nifty, like Sensex, like IT index, like pharma index, and so on. These are very familiar from a financial perspective, from a financial investment perspective, where if you wanted to invest in the top Indian companies, you pick Nifty 50, you can invest in the 50 stocks that represent the Indian economy. You want to invest only in the top IT companies, you can pick up the Nifty IT index, NSE IT index, and you can invest in the top IT companies of India. But when it comes to that, so that is one way to use index. The second way that indexes get used is benchmarking. What means benchmarking? Benchmarking means I invested 100 crore in a portfolio. How did my portfolio perform? Well, Nifty went up by 20%. My portfolio went up by 25%. That means it did very well. Nifty went up by 20%. My portfolio went up only by 10%. That means my portfolio didn't do too well. So there are two ways in which we use indexes. One, to pick stocks. The other, to measure our performance, benchmarking performance. And what you see on the screen here is the traditional use of traditional investing. When we come to ESG investing, we look at ESG criteria. Okay. Now, ESG criteria are different criteria. They are not financial criteria. So we don't know sufficiently about the methods to assess ESG. What are the issues in assessing ESG? First question, how do I assess Indian Oil's ESG score? Second, when CRISIL says their ESG score is such and such, okay, I use CRISIL's ratings for making financial investment, but I also do my own financial research. If ESG says that Indian Oil has got a good ESG, if CRISIL says that Indian Oil has got a good ESG score, do I have any way of doing my original research on Indian Oil's ESG? Maybe, maybe not. If Indian Oil publishes a sustainability report, can I question it? Can I map it to the financial data? All these are open-ended questions today. They will get resolved in the next 24 to 36 months. Till then, what am I going to do? I'm going to use ESG indexes. Okay. And I'm going to primarily use ESG index to invest. Now, here you have a sample. Look, some of the ESG indexes by MSCI. There is something called the MSCI Climate Paris Aligned Index. If you open that index, you will see a list of stocks that contain that align to the Paris Accord. You can go invest in those stocks and your work is done. You can just take the list as is, invest in those stocks in that proportion as is, and your work is done. Let's say you want to invest in, look at the yellow blurb on the right extreme, MSCI Global Environment Women's Leadership Impact Index. Which are the companies that have women in the leadership? Go pick that list of companies, choose some amongst them, choose all of them in the exact proportion in which MSCI has listed them, and your investment work is done. This, in traditional investment, would be called passive investing, merely following the list published by someone else, whether it is Nifty 50, whether it is MSCI Climate Change Index, MSCI X Fossil Fuel Index, whatever. Passive investing. Passive investing in mutual fund, traditional mutual fund, few investors will accept. They will say, hey, if I have to buy Nifty, why should I pay you fund management fees? Show me your genius. I want to see Aditya Birla mutual fund outstrip the market. I will pay you fund management fees. But in ESG investing, nobody is making such demands yet, because ESG investing is still work in process. So, there are so many indexes, 2,500 indexes, all types, climate, Paris, faith-based. Can you see here? Bloomberg in the middle, Bloomberg, Barclays, MSCI, faith-based index. Those, it's a list of organizations that follow principles of Islamic finance or the Catholic Church. There are Catholic charities that will invest only in Catholic faith-based investment principles. There are Islamic investors who will invest only in funds that follow Islamic principles. Where to go find companies that invest as per which follow Islamic principles? Very simple. Go to any one of the index providers, take their faith-based index list. Like, if I will give you an Indian example, suppose I make the MSCI Jain Investment Index. None of the companies listed over there would be engaged in meat, poultry, harmful eggs. It may even be vegan, no milk also, maybe. Then you look at that list, all these companies follow Jain principles. You don't have to do your original research. You can just invest in all those companies in that list and you're done. Okay? So,
Thank you, sir.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yash, I know everyone loves the presentations. Look, to all those who are hoping or requesting me for the presentation, I will humbly submit to you. I have made it available to you in the form of this thing called the walk. In this walk, I have kept nothing from you. Okay? What do I mean I've kept nothing from you? You can see the infographic. You can download the infographic. You can write to me in the group and make demands on it. As far as core presentation is concerned, just spare me, give me also a thought. Me, all my colleagues, we also have families to feed. These presentations are our bread and butter. So I'm humbly submitting to you. Don't ask me for presentations, but under Matsushita principle, everything is yours. See, all the details are here. Whatever and nobody from my firm ever asks any client about you're using this, that, or the. You will not get mails. You will not be asked anything. Okay, Mr. Maniyar is my biggest, I should think, advocate. He got the maximum value from me in the group, and I didn't ask him anything. Sirji, we have one kind of Sailesh has written, Mr. Sailesh Wadhwania has written, We have one kind of sustainability reporting maturity model for 1.0 for these benchmarks. Mr. Shailesh, could you please expand on the point you're making? If you could unmute, sir. Are you saying you?
Please, Budhwania.
Yes, sir.
I'm a chartered accountant.
Yes, sir.
ICA has made this SRMM called Sustainability Reporting Maturity Model, by which company can assess its benchmark and know what kind of reporting they have to make and where they are exactly right now.
That's our CA Institute.
Yes.
Thank you so very much. Most of our clients are all these, the MSCIs and Sustain Analytics are our clients. We are very much a global practice, my firm, very much a global practice. So I will confess to being a little thin on Indian. Only thing that caught my eye is BRSR. I am much obliged to Shailesh for sharing that with us, sir. I am richer by your comment. Thank you. Questions, what else, comments, anything else? And Shailesh, I can promise you that I will work on SRMM1 and as Mr. Okezi from Birmingham knows, I will probably present myself in a month's time as the expert on SRMM 1.0. That's what I do for a living. That's my job. Yes, Viral, sir, please.
Yes, sir, you are right, actually.
Yes, Shailesh.
Yeah, yes, sir, you're actually right. But ICA is demanding, if you work on sustainability SRMM, and if you have any query or suggestion, so you can tell them for improvement. So it will be better if you use, then you have a global practice, so you can give some suggestion to them.
I will, sir. I don't think I'm competent to suggest anything to the institute. I take a very humble approach on such things, but I will definitely study it inside out and make something available to this community on SRMM 1.0.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I will do that. Yeah. Viral, sir, you had something to say, or that's just.
So regarding that, many companies are basically publishing the score in their annual reports. They have started voluntarily, right?
Yes.
So how to basically read those reports and make an decision regarding that? If you can just throw some light on that.
Yeah, you can't really go blind on that. For the simple reason that anybody today can claim anything, and there is no, the global regulators have not come up with a way to control what is called greenwashing. Okay, so there is stuff in the US, there is stuff in Europe, there is stuff in India, but there is nobody saying you'll go to jail for claiming something that's not true. Point number one. Point number two, controversy. A company that looks absolutely fine. I'll give you some shining examples. Maggie. Do you remember 2, 3, 4 years ago? Just a few years ago? That Center for Environmental Studies or whatever, Sunita Narayan in Delhi. Maggie has got contaminant in its noodles. For the stock crashed, the company was in the doghouse, Maggie was not getting sold. Roll back by a few more years. Worms were found in Cadbury chocolates. Does anybody remember that? It's because we don't have proper refrigeration in some of the stores in outlying areas. And then Cadbury had to redo their packaging so that inside the foil, there's a layer of cellophane kind of thing, which doesn't allow insects to ingress. Any of these incidents can destroy the stock. And you might have made a very good investment decision. And this could sort of kill it. So I will say one of the biggest areas for chartered accountants or for any ESG analyst to invest is in value chain analysis. What are your inputs? Where do you get them from? What is your production process? What all does it involve? What is your output? Who's your customer? How does he put it to use? And you should go on building this. Now, this might sound complex to you, but trust me, if you go online right now after this session and see, that's why I say the question is important. keep the walk in one screen and Google the question, Tesla value chain, Tesla suppliers. You will find 50 people have put up a map of the Tesla car diagram, some 100 data points around the car, which part is sourced from where, what it contains, what is its e-score, you will be surprised at how much information is out there. And it's eye-opening to know that all you need to do is say, Apple iPhone, what component is sourced from where? And if you find the word Congo there, if you find the word, so if you go to Council for Foreign Relations, US website, USCFR, it will give you a global conflicts map. So it will tell you which are all the parts of the world where there is war, where there is civil war, where there is external war. Any supplier that is from any of these countries, you need to be red alert. So we are some distance away from being chilled out that yes, I've done my ESG rating, this investment won't crash. A cynic might say we are some distance even away from financial analysis. There were a number of companies which were considered good. Some extremely good banking names are present in the Vijay Mallya portfolio, in the Nirav Modi portfolio, all of them licking their wounds over billions of losses. So cynic will say, hell, even financial analysis is in the doghouse. But ESG, much more so than financial. If you're putting your money, my dear sir, you have to really use a magnifying glass.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you're a fund manager, at the risk of offending fund managers, if you're a fund manager, it's slightly easier. Yes, Mr. Okezi, you have a question.
Fantastic session, as usual, of course. Yeah.
Your flattery will get you nowhere, Mr. Okezi.
No, don't keep on with that. Your excessive modesty. You are a global asset. There's no two ways about it. I have people in the Central Bank of Nigeria who will never forget you. Here's my question.
Sure.
While you were speaking, I think I've got two kind of questions in one. The first is about the IFRS that you mentioned. Now, we're expecting, according to you, a new sort of tranche of regulations.
Yes.
IFRS for that.
Yeah.
Now, what really will change? And is the change that you anticipate so much that it will involve relearning, so to speak? Because we provide IFRS training, to our clients through, you and others.
Yeah.
If this were to happen, is it something that you think will involve a kind of major change or mild incremental iterations? That's one. Secondly, in all of this, what would you say is, sort of represents the meaty, weighty issue for lawyers, corporate lawyers? You've dealt with accountants and their needs, financial advisors or financial analysts and all of that. What are the core issues for the accountants here, apart from issues regarding losses accruing from reputational damage or so? ESG proper, where do you see the corporate lawyers?
Yeah, so I'll take the corporate lawyer question first. The corporate lawyer question is, when you have when you have a sustainability analysis, we know from our understanding of the phrase controversy that your event, like a accident, like a director being found to be derelict of duty, like contamination, like product liability, like consumer protection liabilities, all these issues the lawyer is going to have to end up defending. Okay. Now, let's say an incident occurs with a client of yours and it involves a dereliction of duty or a contaminant or you've been releasing, discharge into a major river in the country, and your sustainability report is all glowing and pretty. And, nowadays NGOs are hyperactive. They're going to go and say, Mr. Okezi is the legal advisor to this firm that is polluting our major rivers. And look at their sustainability report, it's full of lies, right? So as a lawyer, there are two things. Are we on the right side of ESG? Second, did we make disclosures which we knew to be untrue? Mens rea, a legal concept which says, I knew, therefore I am guilty. Yeah. So you as the corporate lawyer will want to, at a minimum, maintain plausible deniability, Mr. Okezi. We thought it was in order. If there is a misstatement, it is not, it is a genuine mistake. Is the minimum defense you want. The maximum defense you want is we don't actually release effluents into the river. Yeah. So for lawyers, it's a mine. It's a gold mine. What is a minefield for a company? Is a gold mine for accountants, lawyers, people that work in disclosure, people that work in regulatory practice, guys like me that make a living out of all this stuff. Yeah. That is the guiding post for the legal community, but it covers the accounting profession as well. On IFRS, there is nothing, no conjecture, no imagination, nothing. I'm going to share with you a slide. It's all laid out there. The comments, it is actually the IFRS is gathering feedback and modifying. This is going to get done in the next 24 months. I'm going to just quickly share with you the framework, okay, the high level view of the framework. And this is, so, this is one of those, okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. But Microsoft as usually is having a heart attack. But you can see this slide, right? You can see over here, IFRS covers, okay, Microsoft's heart attack is over. IFRS covers, there's standard one, which is on sustainability related risk and opportunity, climate related risks and opportunities. And the primary users of general purpose, this is from the IFRS's wording. The primary users of people that use financial reports should know sustainability and climate related risks and opportunities. So that, as Viral asked the question, it should lead to a better assessment of enterprise value and investment decisions. Then very specifically it says, describe your sustainability and climate related risks and opportunities. Describe its effects on your business model. So, for a couple of years, I've been evangelizing value chain analysis and business analysis. And people are like, yeah, well, you know what? The rating agency will do that. But look, IFRS says to you, you tell me sustainability and climate, how does it impact your business? So you can no longer rely on external. You tell me what is the impact of these risks on your strategy. If coal is going to be eliminated and you are a coal mining company, can you tell me more about your future? Tell me the impact on your cash flows. How much are you spending on clean energy projects because you have to? Is that the amount that you're spending on your clean energy projects large enough to swallow your entire positive cash flow? Tell me about, are you able to raise money for the things you need to do? Tell me what is the impact of all this on your cost of capital. Okay, these are the effects. And then it says these effects should be described in the short term, the medium term, and the long term. And disclose what does it mean? What does short term mean to you? You're an airline. What does short term mean to you? You're an airline. What does long term mean to you? You're a hotel. What does medium term mean to you? And what is the strategic plan over this time? Because now sustainability and climate risks are recognized as fait accompli. You're not going to be able to escape. Okay. And lastly, okay, you've got a strategic plan. How do you allocate capital to your strategic plan in the context of sustainability and climate related risks? Now, one minor point that I must mention over here, minor but important. Every industry, there are 176, 88 plus 77. What is that number? 165. The 165 industries by category listed. It gives, if you say I am a fashion retailer, there's a document that lists what are your sustainability factors, what are your climate factors. Is water effluent an issue for you? Is energy consumption an issue for you? Is use of ethanol an issue for you? By 165 industry categories, this is already available. Okay, you can go to SASB, you can go to Value Research Foundation, you can ask Sushil Sharma like Mr. Maniyar did, and I'll just pipeline it your way. And you can start to build your, when these things are launched. Now Shailesh ji has given me the job of the CA Institute's a materiality reporting standard. I will align this to those 165 industry categories so that people are guided for their industry. They don't have to sweat. They don't have to rely on the factory manager, the plant manager, the XYZ ABC. And here's why I say chartered accountants are the people to go to, because we've done cost audit, we've done cost management, we've done all this in our working life. So you can map this, and then when your chief technical officer comes to explain to you climate risk, sustainability risk, you can say, but we are a hotel. What is our workers' rights? You can call the HR guy and question him, what is our worker rights? Because in that document, it says for hotels, worker rights are an important scoring item. So you call your HR guy and say, dude, here's the list of things I want you to be clear on workers' rights. And your HR guy, your factory manager, your plant manager, everyone will look up to you and say, these chartered accountants have the list of questions. We better listen to them. That's the pride of place our community needs to own and occupy. So IFRS is very much here, Kachi. It's not pie in the sky. We can already start aligning to this.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I'm trying to see. Anyway, we'll talk later.
Sure.
It's just amazing because, the more you scratch it, the more it needs to be scratched.
Yeah. Well, the major effort put by me is to already give it a structure so that we don't lose our way. Because the easiest thing in the face of this much of change is to lose the way, get confused, get stressed out. Let's say I'm the chief sustainability officer, or I'm the CFO. My organization expects me to lead the path to compliant sustainability reporting. I'm stressed, man. I don't want to miss the major thing.
Yeah. What about the boards? Sorry, I didn't include that. I mean, but what you just said now, because I was doing something for boards, but kind of legal framework for governance for boards. And we just find that it's got to be about ESG at the very least, because the board cannot oversight an ESG compliant process without being ESG compliant themselves.
So if you look at IFRS, it talks about who at the board has responsibility for sustainability risk and climate risk. Yeah. And if none of the board members know the sustainability risk map of their organization, that's a bad one. So board level training on what are SRROs and CRROs, awareness, right? The last thing you want to be the board member who's like, what? we actually generate effluents? You never told me. And the regulator will say, yeah, right. You just come to the board meetings to have tea and snacks, my friend. Go to jail. You know,
Yeah.
you need to be
That's
aware
right.
of key risks, right?
Mm.
Yeah, there's scope for board level training as well. Awareness programs and so on and so on.
Fantastic, fantastic. And does that go for non-profits as well?
Sorry, for non-corporates.
Yeah, non-profits, NGOs.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. NGOs would want all this in their arsenal. If you said, Sushil, I got an NGO, what should I take to them? I would say, what are they into? For example, for Mr. Maniyar, water, they are preparing water effluent treatment plants. These 165 industries, which of them need water effluent treatment?
Mm.
So if you told me this is an NGO which is interested in water bodies, which are the industries? What is the regulatory benchmark for effluent? So many parts per million should not exceed this. So then the NGO can go calling on the, I don't know, the Coca-Cola plant and say, your consumption of water should not exceed so many liters per bottle or whatever. That's something an NGO would love to know.
Right, because they're armed with the data.
No feeding a rabble-rouser, if you would pardon the expression, but you know, you feed your client, man. You feed them whatever they want. Just charge them for it. It's not our problem that it's a rabble-rouser. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize profusely for the Zoom security breach. We've got a lengthy email from Zoom saying how sorry they are because we are a paid service. This is not a free-to-air Zoom thing that anyone can gate crash. Yeah. We have high security standards internal to our organization. We use only Apple computers relying on their security features in addition to other security practices. In spite of all that, that horrible thing happened. Our attendance never went back to where we were. We were at some 50 something and we've been hovering at 20 something ever since. All my loss.
Yes, it was 55.
Yeah. And you know, many of them, I'm sure the ladies just fled at the very least. But anyway, I hope I've added value to you. I'm, by my standards, over by some. I should have finished at 7. And 36 minutes past. I don't like doing very long-winded stuff.
No.
bit.ly.esg, sorry, let me repeat that right here. bit.ly/ESG walk. And I'm part of your group. You know where to find me. And I'm always at your disposal.
Thank you very much.
Friday evening, Kachi, right here in India. We are all looking forward to a festive weekend, which is the Christmas weekend.
I can imagine. I can imagine that.
Yeah, the clinking glasses that the bars are, you know, inviting.
Are you going to unwind now? You ready to unwind?
Today is at the local pub and tomorrow is at the local church.
Does it flow in that order? Can you swap
yes,
it?
I will party today so that I may plead for forgiveness tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Yes. That's a good one.
You have a good Christmas too, Mr. Okezi.
And you too. And you too. We have an engagement for the end of January, remember?
You'll have to remind me, but that's outside
right.
Here. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Thank you, everyone. If there are any lingering questions, there's always our group and we can keep doing this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was quite an enlightening session, and you surely motivated us to research and dig deep more into the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.